At the same time that BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is moving into a $6.4 trillion region, launching 2 brand new Bitcoin spot ETFs, we're seeing some really interesting signs from some G20 countries in this region that BlackRock is looking to dominate. Again, BlackRock has already dominated the American markets, but now they're launching 2 spot ETFs in Europe. And at the same time, we're seeing BlackRock make this move, we can see the central bank, a very large $680 billion central bank from Poland, is saying that they will not buy Bitcoin under any circumstances. And again, I think the timing of this announcement from the Polish central bank is very interesting, because only 2 months ago, we were all talking about how one of their most popular presidential candidates was openly talking about strategic Bitcoin reserves. We can see this headline here: Polish presidential candidate pledges strategic Bitcoin reserve if elected. Now, for those who may not know, Poland does have an enormous GDP. They've got an $800 billion GDP. If you rank Poland's GDP, they are in the top 25 countries all around the world. And I think this is really interesting because there are multiple countries in Europe who are openly attacking Bitcoin. Let's not forget what the G7 giant, France, was talking about only a couple of months ago. We know that France was openly attacking Bitcoin. Who else in the region of Europe is also attacking Bitcoin, might you ask? I'm glad you asked, because of course we're talking about a country with another multi-trillion-dollar GDP, Italy. Italy also recently increased their capital gains taxes to 42% from 26% on Bitcoin. And then Poland looks as if they have joined the, let's call it the European attack on Bitcoin. But the question I want to ask you guys is, why is BlackRock going ahead and launching these 2 Bitcoin spot ETFs in Europe if things are so dire in Europe? Does BlackRock know something that we don't? Because let's really think about this for a moment. BlackRock wouldn't be going and launching these spot Bitcoin ETFs in a region where they know it's going to be very difficult for them to make money. Again, it all comes down to money. Maybe BlackRock thinks they've saturated the US market. This is something I haven't seen a lot of people talk about. Donald Trump right now is talking about the potential of launching a US ETF, an American first Bitcoin ETF. That's right, the president of America. I nearly think maybe he's going into competition with BlackRock. Again, the president can market his ETF to the entire world. They can even hypothetically pass laws to maybe make his ETF more favorable than the other. And I just think it's interesting that now BlackRock is kind of like shifting a little bit, going ahead and launching these 2 Bitcoin ETFs in Europe. Now, let's not forget, what else is in Europe? Europe is the epicenter of the globalist movement. Let's not forget, the World Economic Forum holds their annual Davos conference in Switzerland, Davos, Switzerland. Are there some dots here that seem to be aligning? Potentially, and that's what I want to explore in a little bit more detail in today's video. But let's have a look at what BlackRock is doing. BlackRock is trying to launch these 2 Bitcoin ETFs in the NASDAQ. This is interesting because we were recently talking about everybody's favorite, Michael Saylor, who now has 2 products in the NASDAQ himself. That's right, we have MicroStrategy, but then we have his other little interesting vehicle that is offering investors 8% yield called STRK. Now, that is potentially a rabbit hole on a topic for another day. We did do a video on BlackRock's newest product that is going into the NASDAQ. But now it kind of looks, the reason why I mentioned these two MicroStrategy products is because we now might have 4 Bitcoin-related products in the NASDAQ. Again, there's only 100 companies in the NASDAQ. 4 of these could be Bitcoin-esque, or they could be giving investors Bitcoin exposure. I think this is really starting to change a lot of things in the Bitcoin space. Now, something else that I think could be changing right now is maybe the opinions of people high up in power in Poland. I want to break down the most recent news of what is happening to Poland and why the National Bank of Poland will, as you can see by this quote, not consider Bitcoin as a reserve under any circumstances. Don't you just think that's a little bit interesting? I do. I certainly do. Why? Why do you guys think? Why do you guys think we're seeing this come out of this country? Why have they flipped so quickly? Is it because of this lady, who I would love to show you a video of, and that is, of course, Christine Lagarde. Because she had some, let's call it what it is, some interesting things to say last week. I'm going to get back on over to Christine Lagarde here in a moment. But what I want to really ask you guys is, has somebody gotten in the ear of Poland's leaders, Poland's people high up in power? Because we all know that literally days after a central banker from the Czech Republic said that they wanted to buy, quote unquote, billions of dollars of Bitcoin for their reserves, everybody's favorite criminal, that's all right, Christine Lagarde is a criminal, she's convicted, has come out and seemingly had a very interesting conversation with the central banker in the Czech Republic, who was talking about putting Bitcoin in the country's reserves. We can see ECB's Lagarde slaps down Czech proposal for Bitcoin reserves. I wish I was making this up, but this happened. We can even see a direct quote. I'm not going to try my hand at playing a video that may or may not have audio for you guys tonight, but we can see direct quote. I am confident. This is what Christine Lagarde said. I am confident Bitcoins won't enter the reserves of any of the central banks of the General Council, she told press conferences following the ECB's interest rate decision. So the General Council that Christine Lagarde is talking about is any central bank in the ECB. Again, this relates to the news that we're talking about today with Poland and their central bank being very adamant and definitive that they will, as you can see from the headline, will not buy Bitcoin under any circumstances. Interesting. Don't we just think something could be going on? What is going on in Europe? Is Christine Lagarde going around to every central banker, tapping them on the shoulder and telling them, you are not allowed to buy Bitcoin? Maybe, just maybe. So we can see here another quote from Lagarde. It's crazy that she actually says the quiet parts out loud. She says here in this quote, I had a good conversation with the central banker after the central banker made these comments about Bitcoin. And coincidentally, after our conversation, he agreed that central bank reserves should be liquid, secure, and safe. What changed? Were there, let's call it, threats involved? Not so sure. Maybe somebody threatened somebody to cut off the money spigots if they adopted Bitcoin. Almost like what the IMF did with El Salvador. They said, we will give you a $1.4 billion loan on the condition that you reverse your Bitcoin legal tender law. Is it so crazy to assume that maybe the same thing's happening with the ECB and the Polish central bankers and the Czech Republic central bankers? Potentially. I want to explore that rabbit hole in a little bit more detail here in a second. Just want to have a little bit of a peep in the chat here. Green candle. Luke being late is criminal. Maybe I was a little bit late today. It's a busy day. It's Valentine's Day. Second live stream for the day for you guys today. I'm not sure if I would last a week or two in prison. Let me just say that. The military structure could be a good thing. But somebody who is getting sick of structure, maybe not of the military kind, and that is these central banks, like the Czech Republic, who are wanting to get out of this controlled, centralized, central banking cartel. That's what it is. It's a cartel. And they will even have conversations with you if you try to exit the cartel and use a form of money that they don't control. This is exactly what happened with the... This is just what happened over here. This isn't rumors. This isn't speculation. Christine Lagarde has directly said it in the quotes that I have highlighted in this article. I had a conversation with the Czech Republic central banker days after he announced he would buy billions of dollars of Bitcoin for his reserves, for his country's reserves. I wish I was making it up, but sometimes article headlines like this pretty much explain the whole story. ECB's Lagarde slaps down Czech proposal for Bitcoin reserves. Isn't it just a crazy world we live in? That these people have so much control over the financial system and which countries and central banks are allowed and are not allowed to escape said financial systems. Really is wild that we do allow these central banking bureaucrats to have as much power as they do have over the financial system. I don't need to remind you guys, this is obviously the beauty of Bitcoin. You don't need to ask for Christine Lagarde's permission to buy Bitcoin. You can just get started buying Bitcoin today. And I think that's the beautiful thing that Rhino Bitcoin allows every single one of the 1,271 of you guys to do, tuning in between Twitter and YouTube, to do today. And that is get started buying Bitcoin at a place that we commonly call the all-in-one Bitcoin super application. If you guys don't know about Rhino, you can buy Bitcoin on Rhino, sell Bitcoin on Rhino, use the power of the Lightning Network to send money all around the world, and you can even send cash globally using the Rhino application. Pretty soon, you're even going to be able to borrow against your Bitcoin using Rhino. We highly recommend you check them out. You can even get yourselves $10 of free Bitcoin with Rhino if you sign up and use a promo code Bitcoin News. One word, Bitcoin News. So check out Rhino. And before we talk a little bit more about the European Central Bank, I want to answer this question here by Adam. I think he makes a great point. It does take hundreds of hours, more than 100 hours, to really, truly understand Bitcoin. And they are going to fight hard to try to stop this thing. And I don't think they've done the research either, Adam. So thanks for the comment over on Twitter. I wonder how many of you guys are on Twitter versus YouTube. And this is also a really good point that McLovin makes. Christine Lagarde fighting Bitcoin is only going to help push its adoption even further. Since Christine Lagarde has been talking about Bitcoin, attacking Bitcoin, a lot of people have kind of like made fun of Christine Lagarde because even is it her son who owns Bitcoin? Didn't listen to her at all. I would love to know whether Christine Lagarde's son still owns Bitcoin. But again, Christine Lagarde has been talking smack about Bitcoin for a long time now. Who remembers this video of Christine Lagarde? It's one of the favorites here on the channel. I do like to play from time to time. But let's listen to what she says about Bitcoin when asked about it. If there is an escape, that escape will be used. She's, of course, talking about Bitcoin. If there is an escape out of central banking, totalitarian regimes where they want to lock you in with central bank digital currencies, it will be used. But again, this is the beautiful thing about decentralization. Bitcoin is a decentralized network. And when you try to corner or control one part of the Bitcoin decentralized network, and you try to squeeze it, it's like trying to squeeze water. You can't catch water in your own hands. It's not doable. It's not possible. Okay, we didn't have audio coming through from the video. I'm apologizing. But Christine Lagarde said the quiet parts out loud. She said, if there is an escape, the escape will be used. And this is the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. It is unstoppable. It cannot be controlled. We've seen many examples of this playing out all around the world. Who remembers what happened when China banned Bitcoin mining? Was Bitcoin dead? Was it all over? Did we have to pack it up? No, we did not. Bitcoin is unstoppable. And that's because it's a beautiful thing that the Bitcoin network is decentralized. The Bitcoin mining network, very decentralized. Speaking of the Bitcoin mining network, we are seeing a lot of nation state FOMO really start to accelerate here. The Bitcoin hash rate is hitting new all-time highs as we see new announcements like what we covered earlier today with the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund buying Bitcoin. And have a look at the hash rate of the Bitcoin network. It's getting stronger by the day, and computers from all around the world are plugging into mine this precious thing called Bitcoin. And this is why we're seeing very interesting events pop up, like the world's largest Bitcoin mining conference that's going to be happening in around 1 month, 6 weeks. If you're in America or anywhere around the world, you are absolutely going to have to go to Miami and see what Mining Disrupt is going to be putting on for you guys between March 25th and March 27th. As you can see, they've got a hell of a venue. They've got a great list of speakers. We have speakers like Dennis Porter, BTC Sessions, even very highly respected politicians. Again, if you are looking to connect with Bitcoiners in person, we would encourage you guys once again, do not wait to become a part of the future. Get involved in the future today. You can do that by checking out the Mining Disrupt conference going down in March. You guys can even get 20% off your tickets if you use a promo code Bitcoin News. So there's going to be a link down below for you guys to take advantage of that 20% discount if you are going to the conference. And I highly recommend you go check it out. Again, this is the biggest Bitcoin mining conference in the entire world. It's happening in Florida, the home of my good friend who's in the chat, Brandon. He's even strutting around the same house as me these days, believe it or not. But with all that said, guys, highly recommend we continue to watch what is going on regarding what BlackRock's plans in Europe might be. If you join late, and if you are one of the 1,520 of you guys tuning in, thank you for your time. If you join late, rewind to the beginning of the video and the beginning of the stream, and you can see what we speculated about BlackRock. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next stream.